The Discovery of Oz, the Terrible.
Разоблачение Оз, Ужасного.
The Discovery of Oz, the Terrible. He led the way to a small chamber.
Он направился в маленькую комнату.
He led the way to a small chamber. In the rear of the throne room.
В задней части тронного зала.
In the rear of the throne room. And they all followed him.
И все последовали за ним.
And they all followed him. He pointed to one corner.
Он указал на один угол,
He pointed to one corner. In which lay the great head.
где лежала большая голова,
In which lay the great head. Made out of many thicknesses of paper.
сделанная из бумаги разной толщины,
Made out of many thicknesses of paper. And with a carefully painted face.
с тщательно нарисованным лицом.
And with a carefully painted face. This I hung from the ceiling by a wire.
Это я подвесил к потолку на проволоке,
This I hung from the ceiling by a wire. Said Oz.
сказал Оз.
Said Oz. I stood behind the screen and pulled a thread.
Я стоял за ширмой и тянул за нитку.
I stood behind the screen and pulled a thread. To make the eyes move and the mouth open.
Чтобы глаза двигались и рот открывался.
To make the eyes move and the mouth open. But how about the voice?
А как же голос?
But how about the voice? She inquired.
Спросила она.
She inquired. Oh, I am a ventriloquist.
Я чревовещатель,
Oh, I am a ventriloquist. Said the little man.
сказал человечек.
Said the little man. I can throw the sound of my voice wherever I wish.
Я могу отправить звук своего голоса, куда захочу.
I can throw the sound of my voice wherever I wish. So that you thought it was coming out of the head.
Чтобы вы подумали, что он исходит из головы.
So that you thought it was coming out of the head. Here are the other things.
Вот другие вещи,
Here are the other things. I used to deceive you.
которые я использовал, чтобы обмануть вас.
I used to deceive you. He showed the scarecrow the dress and the mask.
Он показал страшиле платье и маску,
He showed the scarecrow the dress and the mask. He had worn.
которые он носил,
He had worn. When he seemed to be the lovely lady.
когда казался прекрасной леди.
When he seemed to be the lovely lady. And the Tin Woodman saw.
И увидел железный дровосек,
And the Tin Woodman saw. That his terrible beast.
что его страшный зверь.
That his terrible beast. Was nothing but a lot of skins.
Это не что иное, как множество шкур,
Was nothing but a lot of skins. Sewn together.
шитых вместе,
Sewn together. With slats to keep their sides out.
с планками, чтобы не высовывались бока.
With slats to keep their sides out. As for the ball of fire.
Что касается огненного шара,
As for the ball of fire. The false wizard had hung that also from the ceiling.
то лжеволшебник подвесил его к потолку.
The false wizard had hung that also from the ceiling. It was really a ball of cotton.
На самом деле это был ватный шарик,
It was really a ball of cotton. But when oil was poured upon it.
но когда на него налили масло,
But when oil was poured upon it. The ball burned fiercely.
он сильно загорелся.
The ball burned fiercely. Really?
В самом деле,
Really? Said the scarecrow.
сказал страшила,
Said the scarecrow. You ought to be ashamed of yourself.
вам должно быть стыдно за то,
You ought to be ashamed of yourself. For being such a humbug.
что вы такой мошенник.
For being such a humbug. I certainly am.
Да, конечно,
I certainly am. Answered the little man sorrowfully.
с грустью ответил человечек.
Answered the little man sorrowfully. But it was the only thing I could do.
Но это было единственное, что я мог сделать.
But it was the only thing I could do. Sit down, please, there are plenty of chairs.
Садитесь, пожалуйста, стульев много.
Sit down, please, there are plenty of chairs. And I will tell you my story.
И я расскажу вам свою историю.
and I will tell you my story. So they sat down and listened.
Итак, они сели и слушали,
So they sat down and listened. While he told the following tale.
пока он рассказывал следующую историю.
While he told the following tale. I was born in Omaha.
Я родился в Омахе.
I was born in Omaha. Why, that isn't very far from Kansas.
Да ведь это недалеко от Канзаса.
Why, that isn't very far from Kansas. Cried Dorothy.
Воскликнула Дороти.
Cried Dorothy. No, but it's farther from here.
Но это дальше отсюда.
No, but it's farther from here. He said, shaking his head at her sadly.
Сказал он, грустно покачав ей головой.
He said, shaking his head at her sadly. When I grew up, I became a ventriloquist.
Когда я вырос, я стал чревовещателем.
When I grew up, I became a ventriloquist. And at that, I was very well trained by a great master.
И при этом меня очень хорошо обучил великий мастер.
And at that, I was very well trained by a great master. I can imitate any kind of a bird or beast.
Я могу изобразить любую птицу или зверя.
I can imitate any kind of a bird or beast. Here he mewed so like a kitten.
Тут он так замяукал, как котенок.
Here he mewed so like a kitten. That Toto pricked up his ears.
Что Татошка навострил уши.
That Toto pricked up his ears. And looked everywhere.
И огляделся вокруг,
And looked everywhere. To see where she was.
чтобы найти, где она.
To see where she was. After a time.
Через некоторое время,
After a time. Continued Oz.
продолжил Оз,
Continued Oz. I tired of that, and became a balloonist.
я устал от этого и стал воздухоплавателем.
I tired of that, and became a balloonist. What is that?
Кто это?
What is that? Asked Dorothy.
Спросила Дороти.
Asked Dorothy. A man who goes up in a balloon.
Человек, который поднимается на воздушном шаре.
A man who goes up in a balloon. On circus day.
В день цирка,
On circus day. So as to draw a crowd of people together.
чтобы собрать толпу людей.
So as to draw a crowd of people together. And get them to pay to see the circus.
И взять плату за посещение цирка,
And get them to pay to see the circus. He explained.
пояснил он.
He explained. Oh,
Ах,
oh. She said.
сказала она,
She said. I know.
я знаю.
I know. Well, one day I went up in a balloon.
Но однажды я поднялся на воздушном шаре,
Well, one day I went up in a balloon. And the ropes got twisted.
и веревки перекрутились,
And the ropes got twisted. So that I couldn't come down again.
так что я не смог снова спуститься.
So that I couldn't come down again. It went way up above the clouds.
Он поднялся высоко над облаками,
It went way up above the clouds. So far that a current of air struck it.
так высоко, что поток воздуха ударил по нему,
So far that a current of air struck it. And carried it many, many miles away.
и унес на много-много миль.
And carried it many, many miles away. For a day and a night I traveled through the air.
День и ночь я путешествовал по воздуху,
For a day and a night I traveled through the air. And on the morning of the second day I awoke.
а утром второго дня я проснулся,
And on the morning of the second day I awoke. And found the balloon floating.
и обнаружил, что воздушный шар парит.
And found the balloon floating. Over a strange and beautiful country.
Над странной и красивой страной.
Over a strange and beautiful country. It came down gradually.
Оно постепенно опустилось,
It came down gradually. And I was not hurt a bit.
и я ни капли не пострадал.
And I was not hurt a bit. But I found myself in the midst of a strange people.
Но я оказался среди странных людей,
But I found myself in the midst of a strange people. Who, seeing me come from the clouds,
которые, увидев, как я сошел с облаков,
who, seeing me come from the clouds, thought I was a great wizard.
Подумали, что я великий волшебник.
Thought I was a great wizard. Of course I let them think so.
Конечно, я позволил им так думать,
Of course I let them think so. Because they were afraid of me.
потому что они боялись меня.
Because they were afraid of me. And promised to do anything I wished them to.
И обещали сделать все, что я пожелаю.
And promised to do anything I wished them to. Just to amuse myself.
Чтобы развлечь себя.
Just to amuse myself. And keep the good people busy.
И занять добрых людей.
And keep the good people busy. I ordered them to build this city, and my palace.
Я приказал им построить этот город и мой дворец.
I ordered them to build this city, and my palace. And they did it all willingly and well.
И они сделали это все охотно и хорошо.
And they did it all willingly and well. Then I thought.
Тогда я подумал,
Then I thought. As the country was so green and beautiful.
что поскольку страна такая зеленая и красивая,
As the country was so green and beautiful. I would call it the Emerald City.
я бы назвал ее изумрудным городом.
I would call it the Emerald City. And to make the name fit better.
А чтобы имя лучше соответствовало,
And to make the name fit better. I put green spectacles on all the people.
я надел на всех людей зеленые очки,
I put green spectacles on all the people. So that everything they saw was green.
чтобы все, что они видели, было зеленым.
So that everything they saw was green. But isn't everything here green?
А разве здесь не все зелено?
But isn't everything here green? Asked Dorothy.
Спросила Дороти.
Asked Dorothy. No more than in any other city.
Не больше, чем в любом другом городе,
No more than in any other city. Replied Oz.
ответил Оз.
Replied Oz. But when you wear green spectacles.
Но когда вы носите зеленые очки,
But when you wear green spectacles. Why, of course, everything you see.
то, конечно, все, что вы видите,
Why, of course, everything you see. Looks green to you.
кажется вам зеленым.
Looks green to you. The Emerald City.
Изумрудный город.
The Emerald City. Was built a great many years ago.
Был построен очень много лет назад,
Was built a great many years ago. For I was a young man.
потому что я был молодым человеком,
For I was a young man. When the balloon brought me here.
когда воздушный шар занес меня сюда,
When the balloon brought me here. And I am a very old man now.
а теперь я очень стар.
And I am a very old man now. But my people.
Но мои люди,
But my people. Have worn green glasses on their eyes so long.
так долго носили зеленые очки на глазах,
Have worn green glasses on their eyes so long. That most of them think.
что большинство из них думают,
That most of them think. It really is an emerald city.
что это действительно изумрудный город,
It really is an emerald city. And it certainly is a beautiful place.
и это, безусловно, красивое место,
And it certainly is a beautiful place. Abounding in jewels.
изобилующее драгоценностями,
Abounding in jewels. And precious metals.
и драгоценными металлами,
And precious metals. And every good thing.
и всеми хорошими вещами,
And every good thing. That is needed to make one happy.
которые необходимы для счастья.
That is needed to make one happy. I have been good to the people, and they like me.
Я был добр к людям, и они меня любят.
I have been good to the people, and they like me. But ever since this palace was built.
Но с тех пор, как этот дворец был построен,
But ever since this palace was built. I have shut myself up and would not see any of them.
я заперся и не хотел видеть ни одного из них.
I have shut myself up and would not see any of them. One of my greatest fears was the witches.
Одним из моих самых больших страхов были ведьмы.
One of my greatest fears was the witches. For while I had no magical powers at all.
Потому что у меня совсем не было магических способностей,
For while I had no magical powers at all. I soon found out.
я вскоре обнаружил,
I soon found out. That the witches were really able to do wonderful things.
что ведьмы действительно способны творить чудеса.
That the witches were really able to do wonderful things. There were 4 of them in this country.
В этой стране их было 4,
There were 4 of them in this country. And they ruled the people.
и они правили людьми,
And they ruled the people. Who live in the north and south.
которые живут на севере и юге,
Who live in the north and south. And east and west.
востоке и западе.
And east and west. Fortunately.
К счастью,
Fortunately. The witches of the north and south were good.
ведьмы севера и юга были добры,
The witches of the north and south were good. And I knew they would do me no harm.
и я знал, что они не причинят мне вреда.
And I knew they would do me no harm. But the witches of the east and west were terribly wicked.
Но ведьмы востока и запада были ужасно злы,
But the witches of the east and west were terribly wicked. And had they not thought.
и если бы они не думали,
And had they not thought. I was more powerful than they themselves.
что я сильнее их самих,
I was more powerful than they themselves. They would surely have destroyed me.
они наверняка уничтожили бы меня.
They would surely have destroyed me. As it was, I lived in deadly fear of them for many years.
Я так много лет жил в смертельном страхе перед ними.
As it was, I lived in deadly fear of them for many years. So you can imagine.
Так что можете себе представить,
So you can imagine. How pleased I was when I heard.
как я обрадовался, когда узнал,
How pleased I was when I heard. Your house had fallen.
что ваш дом упал.
Your house had fallen. On the wicked witch of the east.
На злую волшебницу Востока.
On the wicked witch of the east. When you came to me.
Когда вы пришли ко мне,
When you came to me. I was willing to promise anything.
я был готов обещать что угодно,
I was willing to promise anything. If you would only do away with the other witch.
лишь бы вы покончили с другой ведьмой.
If you would only do away with the other witch. But, now that you have melted her.
Но теперь, когда вы ее растопили,
But, now that you have melted her. I am ashamed to say.
мне стыдно признаться,
I am ashamed to say. That I cannot keep my promises.
что я не могу сдержать своих обещаний.
That I cannot keep my promises. I think you are a very bad man.
Я думаю, что вы очень плохой человек,
I think you are a very bad man. Said Dorothy.
сказала Дороти.
Said Dorothy. Oh, no, my dear.
Нет, моя дорогая.
Oh, no, my dear. I'm really a very good man.
Я действительно очень хороший человек,
I'm really a very good man. But I'm a very bad wizard.
но я очень плохой волшебник.
But I'm a very bad wizard. I must admit.
Должен признать.
I must admit. Can't you give me brains?
Не могли бы вы дать мне мозги?
Can't you give me brains? Asked the scarecrow.
Спросил Страшила.
Asked the scarecrow. You don't need them.
Они вам не нужны.
You don't need them. You are learning something every day.
Вы учитесь чему-то каждый день.
You are learning something every day. A baby has brains.
У ребенка есть мозги,
A baby has brains. But it doesn't know much.
но он мало что знает.
But it doesn't know much. Experience is the only thing.
Опыт — это единственное,
Experience is the only thing. That brings knowledge.
что приносит знания,
That brings knowledge. And the longer you are on earth.
и чем дольше вы находитесь на земле,
And the longer you are on earth. The more experience you are sure to get.
тем больше опыта вы обязательно получите.
The more experience you are sure to get. That may all be true.
Возможно, все это правда,
That may all be true. Said the Scarecrow.
сказал Страшила.
Said the Scarecrow. But I shall be very unhappy.
Но я буду очень несчастен,
But I shall be very unhappy. Unless you give me brains.
если ты не дашь мне мозги.
Unless you give me brains. The false wizard looked at him carefully.
Лжеволшебник внимательно посмотрел на него.
The false wizard looked at him carefully. Well,
Что ж,
well, he said with a sigh.
сказал он со вздохом,
He said with a sigh. I'm not much of a magician, as I said.
я не совсем волшебник, как я уже сказал.
I'm not much of a magician, as I said. But if you will come to me tomorrow morning.
Но если ты придешь ко мне завтра утром,
But if you will come to me tomorrow morning. I will stuff your head with brains.
я наполню твою голову мозгами.
I will stuff your head with brains. I cannot tell you how to use them, however.
Однако я не могу сказать, как их использовать.
I cannot tell you how to use them, however. You must find that out for yourself.
Ты должен выяснить это сам.
You must find that out for yourself. Oh, thank you, thank you.
Спасибо, спасибо.
Oh, thank you, cried the Scarecrow.
Воскликнул Страшила.
Cried the Scarecrow. I'll find a way to use them, never fear.
Я найду, как их использовать, не бойся.
I'll find a way to use them, never fear. But how about my courage?
А как же моя смелость?
But how about my courage? Asked the lion anxiously.
С тревогой спросил лев.
Asked the lion anxiously. You have plenty of courage, I am sure.
У тебя достаточно отваги, я уверен.
You have plenty of courage, I am sure. Answered Oz.
Ответил ос.
Answered Oz. All you need is confidence in yourself.
Все, что тебе нужно, это уверенность в себе.
All you need is confidence in yourself. There is no living thing that is not afraid.
Нет живого существа, которое не боится.
There is no living thing that is not afraid. When it faces danger.
Когда сталкивается с опасностью.
When it faces danger. The true courage is in facing danger.
Истинное мужество — это встреча с опасностью.
The true courage is in facing danger. When you are afraid.
Когда ты боишься.
When you are afraid. And that kind of courage you have in plenty.
А такой храбрости у тебя достаточно.
And that kind of courage you have in plenty. Perhaps I have, but I'm scared just the same.
Возможно, да, но я все равно боюсь.
Perhaps I have, but I'm scared just the same. Said the lion.
Сказал лев.
Said the lion. I shall really be very unhappy.
Я действительно буду очень несчастен.
I shall really be very unhappy. Unless you give me the sort of courage.
Если ты не дашь мне мужества.
Unless you give me the sort of courage. That makes one forget he is afraid.
Которое заставит забыть о страхе.
That makes one forget he is afraid. Very well.
Очень хорошо.
Very well. I will give you that sort of courage tomorrow.
Я дам тебе такую смелость завтра.
I will give you that sort of courage tomorrow. Replied Oz.
Ответил ос.
Replied Oz. How about my heart?
Как насчет моего сердца?
How about my heart? Asked the Tin Woodman.
Спросил железный дровосек.
Asked the Tin Woodman. Why, as for that.
Что касается этого,
Why, as for that. Answered Oz.
ответил ос.
Answered Oz. I think you are wrong to want a heart.
Я думаю, ты ошибаешься, что хочешь сердце.
I think you are wrong to want a heart. It makes most people unhappy.
Это делает большинство людей несчастными.
It makes most people unhappy. If you only knew it.
Если бы ты только знал это.
If you only knew it. You are in luck not to have a heart.
Тебе повезло, что у тебя нет сердца.
You are in luck not to have a heart. That must be a matter of opinion.
Должно быть, это вопрос мнения,
That must be a matter of opinion, said the Tin Woodman.
сказал железный дровосек.
Said the Tin Woodman. For my part,
Со своей стороны,
for my part, I will bear all the unhappiness without a murmur.
я безропотно снесу все несчастья,
I will bear all the unhappiness without a murmur. If you will give me the heart.
если ты дашь мне сердце.
If you will give me the heart. Very well.
Очень хорошо,
Very well. Answered Oz meekly.
кротко ответил ос.
Answered Oz meekly. Come to me tomorrow, and you shall have a heart.
Приходи ко мне завтра, и у тебя будет сердце.
Come to me tomorrow, and you shall have a heart. I have played wizard for so many years.
Я так много лет играю в волшебника,
I have played wizard for so many years. That I may as well continue the part a little longer.
что могу продолжить играть еще немного.
That I may as well continue the part a little longer. And now,
А теперь,
said Dorothy,
сказала Дороти,
said Dorothy. How am I to get back to Kansas?
как мне вернуться в Канзас?
How am I to get back to Kansas? We shall have to think about that.
Нам придется подумать об этом,
We shall have to think about that. Replied the little man.
ответил человечек.
Replied the little man. Give me 2 or 3 days to consider the matter.
Дай мне 2-3 дня на размышление,
Give me 2 or 3 days to consider the matter. And I'll try to find a way.
и я постараюсь найти способ
And I'll try to find a way. To carry you over the desert.
перевести тебя через пустыню.
To carry you over the desert. In the meantime you shall all be treated.
А пока со всеми вами будут обращаться.
In the meantime you shall all be treated. As my guests.
Как с моими гостями,
As my guests. And while you live in the palace.
и пока вы живете во дворце,
And while you live in the palace. My people will wait upon you.
мои люди будут прислуживать вам.
My people will wait upon you. And obey your slightest wish.
И выполнять малейшие ваши пожелания.
And obey your slightest wish. There is only one thing I ask in return for my help.
В обмен на мою помощь я прошу только об одном.
There is only one thing I ask in return for my help. Such as it is.
Так, как есть.
Such as it is. You must keep my secret.
Вы должны хранить мою тайну.
You must keep my secret. And tell no one I am a humbug.
И никому не говорить, что я обманщик.
And tell no one I am a humbug. They agreed to say nothing.
Они согласились ничего не говорить.
They agreed to say nothing. Of what they had learned.
О том, что узнали,
Of what they had learned. And went back to their rooms.
и вернулись в свои комнаты.
And went back to their rooms. In high spirits.
В приподнятом настроении.
In high spirits. Even Dorothy had hope.
Даже Дороти надеялась,
Even Dorothy had hope. That the great and terrible humbug.
что великий и ужасный мошенник,
That the great and terrible humbug. As she called him.
как она его называла,
As she called him. Would find a way to send her back to Kansas.
найдет способ отправить ее обратно в Канзас,
Would find a way to send her back to Kansas. And if he did.
и если он это сделает,
And if he did. She was willing to forgive him everything.
она готова простить ему все.
She was willing to forgive him everything.